Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. It's Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. And we have a very unique show for you because Naira actually did it. The Mad Lads did it. They put Ascot in the cross country pick 5. And I looked at the first race and I decided that this thing's going to pay insanity and it's going to be expensive. And, I figured with all of the glitz and glamour that goes along with Ascot and the top hats, we really had to turn up for the show. So we got rid of Mark. All right. We were just like, no, like, we already saw Kenny McPeak in a top hat. We don't need any more bald guys on here. So someone with a full head of hair, Mr. Caleb Knight. Caleb, how are you doing?
Doing well, Josh. I always love how you enter the show on Thursday, just like super high energy. After we've been talking behind the scenes, just like real chill for the whole time. But yeah, doing well. Always excited for Ascot. I have not got to watch as much of it as I normally do, or as I like, just with life and work and things getting in the way. But excited to watch some Ascot tomorrow and Saturday, and super excited for this pick 5. I mean, 4 of the 5 rate legs being Royal Ascot races, all 5 are turf. Would not surprise me at all if this ends up paying out to 4 out of 5 at the end of the day, depending on the pool size and other things. But a really fun sequence.
Yeah, actually, somebody had asked me today what they thought this pool would get to. Do you think that this is going to be a small pool because of Ascot? Do you think it's going to be maybe a larger pool because of Ascot?
I would guess it's going to be smaller. I think if they kind of throw in one Ascot leg, I think people might still play. But I think that a lot of folks, that play Ascot typically aren't the kind of folks that play horizontal wagers, pick 5s, and whatever else. It's a little more, win plays focused over there. So I tend to think it will be a smaller pool, but there's also people like you and I and others who will probably play a bigger ticket and maybe even target this sequence more than a regular weekend, given the fact that it does include Ascot and has potential to pay really extraordinary, I think, for Saturday. So I think it'll be a little smaller, but I'm hoping not too small.
Nice. And so I think it's time to bring in our very special guest, mutual friend of ours, and international racing guru, Caitlin Free. Caitlin, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I wish my Royal Ascot wagering was going a little bit better than it has been. There have been some wild prices. I've not really been lucky enough to get in on more than like one, but I don't know. Royal Ascot's one of my favorite race meets of the entire year. So it's been really fun to just sit back and watch and enjoy. And I'm sorry, I'm not dressed better for the occasion. I've got on a hoodie and a hat. And
I mean, Caleb is wearing a gray T-shirt.
Yeah, I mean, Josh and I both left our top hats in the closet too. So I think
yeah,
we clearly came prepared.
Yeah, Caleb woke up next to a box of pizza this morning. So I mean, I think the fact we're on top of, I don't know how, but yeah. So I guess with these international races, Caitlin, like especially I think with this first one, right, and we'll kind of jump right into it, right, and we do this a bit here in the States, right? We have these 2-year-old stakes races, right? But I feel like especially at Ascot, you always get one or two of these races during the meeting where it's 2-year-old stakes and like everybody's got one start.
Yeah.
Right. So where are you kind of looking here in race 1? How are you kind of are you more of like a pedigree person? Are you looking at connections? Are you kind of just playing the matchup, seeing who's run where you kind of look first?
Kind of a little bit of everything. I would say for these types of races, I really look for horses that have most of them have never ran at Ascot, especially the 2-year-olds. This would be their first start. But what I'm really looking for is horses that have ran at the distance and horses who've ran on the type of ground we're going to see. A lot of the rain earlier in that area came earlier in the week. So it's going to be warm and the ground should be good to firm. So I'm going to be looking for horses that have ran over a good to firm type of a course. And they've done considerably well over it. Like if you see a horse that's done really well over a yielding surface or a soft surface or a good to soft, that may raise a little bit of alarm bells in this type of a race. Really, any race at Ascot, you're going to want to pay attention to horses that are going to really like the ground. And you're also going to want to pay attention to horses that have ran on a straight course in straight races like this. So you should be able to distinguish it in your past performances, whether you're using Brisnet, you're using daily racing form, or if you're using time form, what have you. It should denote on there if it's going to be if a horse is coming out of a race where they have turned left-handed, if they've turned right-handed, or if they've gone the straight distance. So really horses that have covered the same type of ground that we're going to see and ones that have ran a straight course. And obviously you want to have the type of jockey trainer combination that you're potentially looking for as well, and just kind of, throw it all together.
Yeah, I do have to shout out Mr. Hall of Famer Nick Feldman here. First show since getting married, so we'll go ahead and congratulate him. And I have no idea, for some reason that seems like it's really loud, but congratulations, Nick. And he did mention here. He says one thing he's noticed that seems to been working well for him is horses that are winning races by big amount of lengths, and that's something I saw today. And I know, Caleb, you said you didn't watch a lot, but a lot of handicappers overseas, right? They do form handicapping, right? Like they're looking to see how how horses kind of match up against each other, how horses win, and not that we don't do it here, but I think here in the States we're definitely a lot heavier on pace, on speed figures and things like that. And Timeform's got a great product. If you pick up the Timeform US, you get some speed figures there that'll help you make sense from stuff. But I saw today, it seemed like there were a lot of horses that were basically just coming in great form. Like, hey, maybe they looked 10 points too slow on Timeform, but they come in and they win big. I forgot the big long shot, had run second by a nose to a really big name horse, right, and showed up at like 40-1 or 50-1 and ended up winning. So I really think that's kind of an important way to another thing to look at. And it's a little bit tougher, like I said, when these horses have only run once. But Caleb, we talked a little bit beforehand here. And I think you and I landed on two horses, or I know you had a couple more horses, but two horses I know you and I both kind of had in common are the 5 Lightning Leo, and I'm going by horse number, not post position here. Depending on your PPs, these may be in a different order. And also the kind of, I guess, the morning line favorite, Pearls and Rubies here for Ryan Moore and Aiden O'Brien, which I think, to Caitlin's point, maybe this horse isn't going to be as short because of the fact that, yes, the connections, right? They warrant a short price, and obviously they warrant being looked at. No Nay Never is a pretty known, I think, win early type pedigree. But this horse, won a good going, which I think is, like I said, what we're going to see this weekend. But it's only gone 5 so far. Whereas I think a horse like the 5 for Holly Doyle here and Archie Watson, they beat quite a few horses that are in this race. So they're coming right back against some of his friends here, and won at 7 furlongs. Now I'm not sure if Great Yarmouth is a straight or if it's around a turn. I don't know if you guys know.
Straight.
It's a straight. So we're going to be seeing something similar here that they've been seeing. So I really like the 5, and the 5's probably my top pick in here. I'd be remiss if I left off the favorite, the 16 here. There's a couple other horses that I kind of looked at, and Caleb and I were talking before. If I had listed every horse I thought had a shot in here, I'd probably have like 16 out of the 17 horses that are in this race. So I thought that'd be tough, but I'm going to kind of stick with those two as my top picks here. Caleb, where did you end up kind of landing?
Yeah, Josh, I think if you can get out of this race only using two horses, then you are setting yourself up quite nicely for the rest of the sequence.
Hmm.
Because I thought this was probably the toughest race for me in the sequence. It just, a lot of these horses look the same to me, I'll be honest. I do like the two that you mentioned, Pearls and Rubies. It's hard to leave off Aidan O'Brien in this race. He's won 4 of the last 7 runnings, and his runners typically do improve given a start or two. So, I mean, I think she's a deserving favorite in here. I also like Lightning Leo, as you kind of pointed out earlier. I watched that replay back, and he kind of looked beat to me in that race, and really was able to dig in and actually kind of come back on the horse that appeared to have headed him deep into the tail end of that race. And I kind of liked what I saw there. That was a gutsy effort. So I agree with you on both of those horses. Beyond that, there was a couple I did kind of find interesting in this race. I'll go to the number 13 first, I guess, La Guarida. This is a horse that just raced very greenly in her debut. That Jabbar race is actually coming back a decent piece of form, as well as her last out race where she did break her maiden, with the next 2 finishers also coming back to win. So I thought that was a pretty strong race. I like the improvement that I saw there. She seems like one that just is going to logically improve with distance stretching out here from 6 to 7. Another who I sort of think fits that bill is the 3 Golden Mind, who kind of has also progressed in the second start, progressed with more distance. Trainers on the record saying he really thinks the 7 furlongs will be helpful for her here. Being half a sibling to Perfect Power, I think that kind of makes sense as well. So I kind of liked both the 3 and the 13 in here. There was maybe 1 or 2 I found interesting, but like you said, we could talk about this race forever, and I'm kind of curious where Caitlin landed.
Really, a lot of the 2 that you've been talking about, Pearls and Rubies, the best price you can get her in Antipost betting, what they do over there, is 5-2 at the moment. So really heavy favorite there with Pearls and Rubies. My only concern is, she's gone 5 furlongs and won by a neck, won nicely on debut, and does have that sprinter pedigree. No Day Never. Dam was a multiple grade 1 style type of horse. Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore, very tough to beat them in the races like this. They've won multiple of the 2-year-old races already so far this meeting, and she's in the middle of the gate, which is, I think, an important thing. And this isn't an overly huge field, so I'm not sure if they'll split into 2 groups like they do a lot. They could. So in the middle of the gate, I do like that, but I also liked Lightning Leo a decent bit, as well as the horse that ran second to him in here, Sadati. They were heads and noses apart on the finish line at Yarmouth, which is good to firm 7 furlongs and the straight distance. So they're going to be getting the same thing that they've already seen. Holly Doyle on Lightning Leo, she's already won a grade 1 on the straight, going 5 furlongs already this meeting. Ocean Murphy, nothing to sneeze about either. So I liked those 2, maybe to take a stand against Pearls and Rubies. And also the thing with Pearls and Rubies is this is a race that's open to both sexes, and it doesn't necessarily say on the form I'm looking at, but she is getting 5 pounds weight because she is a filly, but I think she debuted against just fellow fillies. So she's not only stepping up 2 furlongs in distance on her second start, she's also taking on the males. If anybody can do it, it's Aidan and Ryan, but I did look to the 5 and the 9 potentially as alternatives, I would say.
Yeah, and I'm already looking in chat here. Nick Feldman's got a couple he likes here. He likes the 15, the Monty here for Joseph O'Brien. Last one, a handicap over the Curragh over there, going 6 furlongs on good. He's also got Warney May here, the 14, who is, I think, tied for, if not the most experienced horse in this race. Hasn't won yet, so still a maiden, but not that necessarily is gonna stop stop them from running in here. And then the 14 looks more of a stayer. I know they're for the most part they only run the 7 furlongs or mile down the straight. I think at 2 overseas, but And then who was the other one? Warney, the first time starter here for Joseph O'Brien. He seems to like. Looks like a limited sample size of horses starting here in the U.S. So there's not a ton of stats here. So I don't know about Highland Real first time, but is a Galileo sire. So um, definitely some pretty decent breeding on this 10 here, Warney. Caleb, you said you had a couple others that you liked in here, or at least one other one.
Yeah, just briefly. I mean, none of the ones that Nick mentioned, but again, I think this is a pretty open race, and I kind of it's already better getting rid of Mark because Caitlin threw out the favorite already, so it's already an upgrade. But yeah, I guess you know one horse I kind of gave a look to in here that we haven't talked about. And I'm not going to go deep into it, but I think he's the longest price in the field, the number 11 Carolina Reaper. And this is a filly that I thought ran a sneaky good race in that debut. She really blew the break at the start. She was drawn in the 9 post to the furthest outside in the field. She took some money that day, went off just over 3-1. So, I mean, she was clearly somewhat well meant in that spot. Blew the break, got hung out really wide going around the bend. And she just didn't seem to figure it out until about the last furlong. But once she did, I mean, she was putting in a nice run late. She just seems like one that I think maybe is a little more down the line, maybe really wants a mile or a little further. Most of the horses in here are from, middle distance pedigrees. So it's not surprising, but I just thought that she has a lot more than what she showed. And I'm expecting a more professional effort out of her. She may just be that progressive type that needs to have a couple of starts to really put it all together, especially in a pretty ambitious spot like this. But I thought that she ran a race that wasn't that bad to make her, 50-1 against this field. Only one runner from that field has come back to race again, but they did win and break their maiden. So I think that's a horse that may be more of a, kind of an each way bet or underneath play, but one that I think is interesting at a price.
Yeah, and I think one thing to note too, and this is something that Caleb and I were talking before stream. Take a look to see, maybe on Friday. If I don't know if I think that they'll probably run at least one race on the straight. I didn't look at tomorrow's races yet, but
There's a couple.
But just kind of take a look, see where the jockeys kind of end up. Maybe take a look at what the going is looking like. It seems to me like the far side had been kind of the place to be, but I don't know. When I kind of mentioned it to Caleb said that I think the inside of the track was firmer today. So maybe it just happened that the better horses were kind of posted were on the inside posts. But I think that does bode a little bit for the 15 that I know Nick mentioned to Monty here. Maybe even a horse like the 2 Dallas Star, who is going to be on the rail and led for a bit last time out. And kind of just tired a little bit, but it seemed like the speed on that rail seemed to be pretty good. So maybe a couple others to look at, and I'm guessing maybe that is when Nick looked at, and it was funny, Nick just noticing that Big Invasion has entered the next race at Ascot, and yeah, it is pretty funny. I was like Rosario's not aboard, like what's going on? And then I realized Rosario probably came back. But was there anyone else, Caitlin, you want to talk about, or you think you're ready to move on?
No, I think I'm ready to move on. I think that really covers pretty much of it.
Awesome. Charles did mention here, it said the 5 out of the 7 winners today in their PPs had a comment that said lead-headed. So I'm guessing that, these horses that have maybe some of these horses that had gotten the lead at some point in their last races and maybe came a little bit short. Maybe it seems like the track carried them a little bit more this time around. But he said it's been this way all week. Great search for its speed is holding. Where the horses had in the stretch previously. So maybe something to check out here. But we got another 7 furlong race here, the Jersey Stakes, Group 3, as Chase says that Caitlin's in incognito mode. She doesn't want anyone to know she's doing
what?
Because you got like the hat, like you look like you're kind of just like you don't want anyone to recognize you.
Doesn't want to be associated with us.
Yeah.
This is how I look on a normal day when I'm not working all the time. So
But we are going, and it was funny because I was like, "What are you talking about? I've only seen you dressed up," and it's like, "Wait, yeah, because I've literally only seen you at the track." So 7 furlongs here. Group 3 got a, what's the field size? And this one's a big one, isn't it? Another one, yeah. Field of 15 here. And wait, I thought you said Big Invasion was in this one. That liar.
I think it's the next one.
It's the next one.
yeah, that's the Jubilee.
But yeah, this is a field of 15 here. Caitlin, where did you kind of land here?
This race was a little bit tough. Obviously, going to be a heavy favorite in Cave up there. Best price you can find him at the moment is 9-4. There were a couple other ones that really caught my eye. Cave, obviously, going to be a tough customer there. I believe that's Frankie and Sir John Gosden. So there's a couple other ones that I looked at. First will be the 10 that's in post 2. That's Holloway Boy, blinkers off for the Carl Burke barn with Clifford Lee aboard. Only had one run this season, and this horse went straight into the Kipco 2000 Guineas. That was a soft course. It was straight, but it was his first run of the season. It was a grade 1. It was on a soft course. Didn't run that well, got beat by 12 lengths, but every other run he's had has been great. He broke his maiden on the straight going 7 furlongs on a good to firm course at Ascot in the Chesham Stakes, which is obviously the previous race. Then ran well at Goodwood in a grade 2, and then ran well in a grade 3 at Newmarket. 2 grade 3s at Newmarket, ran just behind Silver Knot. And then his last out race as a 2-year-old was on the heavy surface, which I don't think he's a horse that likes a soft surface. I think he likes a good or a good to firm. He was 3rd behind August Rodin, who came back to win the Epsom Derby. So I just think drawn on the inside, but not drawn on the rail, plus the blinkers coming off. This horse has had a chance to get his season started. He was in way over his head in the Kipco 1,000 Guineas, and he's getting a favorable course, and he does really well on a straight course. That's going to be my top selection here in this race. He's a pretty nice price. You can get him at 16-1 is the best you can get him at the moment. And then another one that really caught my eye was Infajar. Let me see if I can find him. Yep, for the Roger Varian barn with Jim Crowley aboard. He broke his maiden on a good to soft, though, but it was a straight surface going 7 furlongs. He won by a neck. And then last time out to open his season about a month ago, he won by 6 lengths going the mile distance on the all-weather, but he's won 2 races in his career. So that would be the 2 I would really lean to. But if you want, obviously, more coverage, it's really tough to beat Frankie and John Gosden at Royal Ascot. So I would say probably Cave that I mentioned, and then Holloway Boy is going to be my top selection, then Infajar as well.
Man, Infajar's got a humongous time form figure last time out. But that was over the synthetic. So
yeah.
I think you kind of gotta make a decision whether you think that type of
and
form,
he beat older horses in there too. Yeah. That's probably why the time form was pretty high.
Yeah, that would make sense. Caleb, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, so I pretty much ended up very similar to Caitlin. My top 2 selections were Infajar and Holloway Boy. So for all the reasons Caitlin already mentioned, I won't beat that one to death. But those are my top 2 selections. I'll probably take a bit of a stand against the favorite in this race, Covey. The horse has done nothing wrong. He's a neck away from being undefeated, but I'm not sure what's been behind him in some of those races, a lot of those handicap efforts, and at what's likely going to be a very short price. That's one that I think, could certainly win. Wouldn't surprise me, but I just don't think I need him if he wins at 9-4 or whatever he's going to go off at. The other horse that I am going to use prominently, although probably not as prominently as the 10 and the 7, is the number 11, Quer Shamar. This is a horse that initially I kind of glanced at and thought maybe just a better synthetic runner. But the more I kind of dug into it, I think that this horse has some ability. I'm not going to hold a debut run against this horse yielding turf at the Curragh, in first start. Ran like a horse that just needed that start. Then comes off a big layoff and actually fires a nice race at Dundalk in April of this year, going a mile. Stays at that mile trip for the next start, but was probably just standing way over his head in the Irish 2000 Guineas. Just not ever likely to be able to land a blow in that kind of a spot. And I thought that he ran well to actually only be 4 lengths back of the winner and really kind of split the field, finishing 6th of 11. Paddington won that race. He came back earlier this week to win the St. James Palace here at Ascot. So I think that the form of that race kind of stacks up. And that was just really not a very realistic spot. I respect Miss Jessica Harrington for taking that shot there, but I think this is a much better fit for this horse, and I think you might get a decent price because of some of the, not the flashiest resume, but lightly raced and progressive, and I'm expecting a step forward here.
Yeah, I'm with you there on the 11. The 11 was one of my top picks in this race. Coming down in class, Paddington, who won the 2000 Guineas, came back to win. I forgot what race it was. Was
St.
it
James?
the St. James? So, obviously, only finished behind 4 lengths in that spot. The time form figure came back very, very nice. And I think, when I look at Covey here, if you look at the time form, the horse it's not running humongous figures, right? I mean, he's winning, but you kind of got to think like, all right, well, what has he beat so far, right? Why are these numbers coming back so low? But because Caleb is leaving him off his tickets, we already know that this is going to be the 9 to 5 that he's going to not have, and he's going to have some 100 to 1 somewhere else in the sequence. I really did like the 11. I actually got to go back. I think the other horse I really liked was the Antarctic here, the 2 horse. Where are my notes? Sorry. I'm got like 3 screens going here. Came back and won a Group 3 last time on firm going. And if you kind of go back through this horse's form, I just think this horse doesn't really like the soft ground. Anytime this horse has gotten good going or better, seems to have fired. I mean, one in Deauville, one. Well, he did win going to soft. Prix de Mornay, ran into Blackbeard and Persian Force there, ran a respectable third. Once again, runs into Blackbeard again, but still runs a respectable second. Gets that heavy going, and then comes back to good going and seems to run back to his form. So I think the Antarctic is just a horse that does need firmer ground. So as long as this comes up good or better on Saturday, which it seems like it's going to, I really like the Antarctic here as kind of like the shorter price that I kind of like. We already talked about the 11. The 11 Quar Shamar, and I think I had another one. Oh, the 15 Olivia Meralda, and this is another one. Looking through the what the heck? Looking through the time form, I think this was another one that seemed to have run a pretty decent figure last time out. Yeah, last time out. And once again, something that I like looking through is has beaten other horses that are running in here. Now, this not exactly beating the world beaters that are in here. But ran a good figure, won by open lengths, going 7 furlongs in Epsom, and does have did run here in the Queen Mary last year. Ran 7th, but coming off of that, had a really really strong, a campaign as a 2-year-old there. So I think coming in off good form with a nice time form figure last time out, I thought the 15 Olivia Meralda was going to be in with a shot. Is going to be, I think, posted 15, so is all the way on the outside. So just another thing, look at, hey, if the outside's not playing great, maybe maybe you can have a fade on here. But 10 to 1 seems like a fair price here on the 15. But is there anyone else, Caleb or Caitlin, you guys liked in this race?
Not necessarily.
No, not really for me. I kind of went back and forth on the one for a while, Mysterious Night, but ended up probably deciding to leave the horse off. Just the Appleby runners typically take more money than I think.
Really, really
Yeah, I
the
mean, so,
night. I
yeah.
mean, that were
Well,
you,
it's not
was
K
that
N
we?
I G H T. It's just
Okay.
NI. So.
So
But yeah,
if the K
ultimately,
was there, that would have put you over
oh
the
yeah, auto
top.
bet if it's night with the K, auto bet.
Yeah.
But no, I'll probably leave him off. But I looked at him for a while.
Yeah, and Mark shows up saying Josh going to let Caitlin talk. Mark, I let her talk before me, so thank you for tuning in. Um, yeah, I don't know. I thought that I thought that this is probably the spot that you can definitely um, get around the short price. I mean, I know the horse is coming in off really good form, but um, this that might be one. Just at least time form isn't as impressed with those wins. So that might just be one that gets a little bit overbet, and maybe we can get around it there. But congratulations to Covey for winning this race since Caleb decided to leave off the ticket. So
Open links.
yeah, open links. It's going to be just a bloodbath on Saturday, isn't it? All right, race 3, the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes here. Great Group 1 here, and we have another just ginormous field here of 16. And like, man, I had to take a break after those first 2 races when I was handicapping these before the show. I could not do what I normally do, which is just open up the form, 10 minutes before we go on stage. I actually had to probably give myself a solid hour, just to make sure I got through some of these and got rid of some of the rage from that League of Legends game I played beforehand. But yeah, my top pick in this race was actually the 9 Kinross here, on the rail. Frankie Dettori gets aboard. Last time we saw this horse ran in the BC Mile. Ran third to Modern Games and Cheryl Spite. But if you kind of go back through, this horse has a nice 6 furlong win here at Ascot with Frankie Dettori aboard. And, outside of that BC Mile, this horse had really done nothing wrong. Um, it was coming in on that BC Mile off of 4 wins in a row. And, this is just another horse that I think on time form kind of just jumps off the page. I know you have the 14 Highfield Princess here running back off of was it 4 days rest? But finished second at a really short price. Now,
And got interfered
yeah,
with.
now there was a little bit of nonsense going on in that race. But yeah, I don't know. The horse is 6-1. I don't know, Caitlin. What are we seeing overseas right now?
On Highfield Princess, the best you can get her is 11-2, which is pretty 5.5-1.
Okay.
So, but that's also the same for Kinross. The best you can get him at is 8-1. Cannonball also running back off of 4 days rest. He was also in the King's Stand. So those 2 running back off short rest. Artorias going to be the fellow Australian and is your current 4-1 favorite in the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee.
Yeah, and I took a look at Artorias, and I thought this was another one that you might be able to get around, but I mean, this horse seems to fire pretty good off the layoff. So has got I think like about 3 months off, and is coming in off the layoff. So I don't know. I didn't have this one written down as a top pick, but it might be something that changes. I don't know. We'll see. I did like. I liked obviously Kinross, and then I also liked the 13 Wellington coming in from Sha Tin, and the horse won the Hong Kong Sprint earlier or late last year in December, and has come back and has run some really really nice races. Has just run into kind of a buzzsaw in oh man, I always forgot how to pronounce it. Is it Lucky Sweynesse or Swin?
Lucky
Yeah,
Swainus.
Sweynesse. And
I think he would absolutely dust this field. I think that's the top turf sprinter in the world.
yeah, and so I think that Wellington kind of not really having faced any of these other ones. And I mean, the horse was just in great form last year. So I think a little bit of a change of scenery here for Wellington. Gets Ryan Moore aboard, who's ridden him twice before, including that win in that Hong Kong sprint. So I thought Wellington was definitely in here with a shot. Looks like 5-1. I think you're still getting about that
Yeah,
overseas, but Caitlin.
you're actually getting five and a
Five and a
half.
half. Yeah, nice. There's a couple others in here I think I could go with, but Caitlin, where did you kind of land?
I actually landed on Wellington. I kind of decided that as soon as I knew he was coming, and he drew okay. In the outside, I expect them to split into two groups again. Highfield Princess going to be this outside, so I think she's got a chance to run really well off of the 4 days rest, especially if they go fast. I'm not sure she was ever going to go by Brad Sell, but she didn't have an opportunity really. So I think she'll still run okay. I think this is the tougher of the two races, which I was kind of not expecting it to be. I don't like Artorias. I just don't think he's really that caliber of a horse. And I think this is a better Jubilee than it was last year when he was disqualified in third. So I think he's running into a different type of a group. Kinross, I think, definitely has a shot. He didn't have the best of trips in the Breeders' Cup mile. I thought he had a chance to run really well against Modern Games. Got a little bit of not the best trip and ride from Frankie. So I think this horse can redeem himself in there, but is drawn on the rail, which I don't necessarily love. Horses that usually are drawn in post one don't always do the best at Ascot unless they're like tons the best. So really, I love Wellington in this race. The only thing really that he's done wrong in the past couple of years is run into Lucky Swainus. California Spangle as well has finished second once to Lucky Swainus in a race that Wellington has also been in. And those are two really good horses. I think Lucky Swainus is the top turf sprinter in the world. I think he would beat this field for sure. So I think Wellington has by far the best form coming into this race. And Ryan Moore aboard obviously is a huge positive. There's one horse that I want to mention, not to necessarily win the race, but if you're kind of playing those vertical type of bets, Emirati Anna. This horse has done nothing wrong. I mean, he didn't run well last time out. He was on a good type of surface, but he doesn't usually do well first up off the layoff anyway. He ran all right in last year's Platinum Jubilee, but this horse ran huge at a price and was ranging up on Caravel in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. He's a horse that's been around forever, and he runs really, really well most of the time against some significantly better groups. He's run well behind Alcohol Free, Highfield Princess, Caravel. He's currently in the market at the moment at 40-1. So he would be one I would be really interested in throwing in underneath, say, a Wellington or an Artorias Highfield Princess to run in those place spots.
Caleb, where did you land?
Yeah, so we're all kind of in agreement in this race, I think. I do like Wellington in this race quite a bit. I think that's probably the horse to beat, assuming that the shipping and everything else goes well. I also like Kinross. I have some reservations about him with the rail as well as off the long layoff in here. He kind of seemed to get good out of nowhere, like in the later part of last year. I mean, he's always been a nice horse, but he got really good late. Just wondering if he might need a start. I'm using both of them prominently. Don't get me wrong, but the horse that I also like in this race a lot, and perhaps it just goes to the way that I tend to approach a track like Royal Ascot, is I'm a sucker for a horse for course angle, and the number 10 Rohan loves Royal Ascot. He's got out of 6 tries at Ascot, he has 4 wins. Arguably could have been 5 or at least a better finish in that British Champion sprint last October, where he did not get the best ride, and the race just didn't really set up for him all that well when he ran fourth to a few others in here. I'm not worried about the last race whatsoever. I mean, that's clearly a tune-up race for what he's really targeting, which is coming back to Royal Ascot to make a good run in this race. So I'm not really sure if he's legitimate Group 1 caliber, but he loves this track and he's put in some good efforts at this track, course and distance. And I think he's sitting on a good race. I mean, he's beaten a few of today's rivals before. Horses like Run to Freedom, among others, who I think aren't in here without a shot themselves. So I think he's a horse that just really fits his configuration and comes up with a big effort in here and should be primed second off the layoff. 10-1 is perhaps a tiny bit short on the price I'd like to see for him, especially when you're getting a horse like Kinross at 7 or 8-1, and the Highfield Princess at 6 or 8-1. I'd like to see a little better than 10-1 on Rohan, but I think you will probably get that ultimately.
So are you saying that you are a rider of Rohan?
Absolutely, yes. But yeah, otherwise, I'm probably only going to be 3 deep in here with the 9, the 10, and the 13 kind of as my top 3 selections. I don't really want anything to do with Artorias, so you can probably pencil him in the winner's circle. I've just never thought he was all that great. He just doesn't really win all that much. I'm sure he'll show up with his run. The firmer turf, may work to his advantage a little bit. Wouldn't surprise me if he hits the board, but I'm just not sure that he's really a horse that I want to take on top, especially as the favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the other horse that I had written down, I kind of have I've written down as a B, is Art Power here for Oisin Murphy and Tim Easterby. I don't know where that last race came from, but Timeform just absolutely just loves that last race, and that last race fits in with anything that these other horses have run. You're getting 12-1. Obviously, the horse is coming in off a win, so the horse is coming in off of with some nice form. Winning at six furlongs by 4 3/4 lengths is just insanity. So yeah, I thought the 3 was interesting as kind of a maybe a slightly longer price here. And then obviously I would have loved Big Invasion if Joel Rosario was still here, but unfortunately I cannot back. Although Joel definitely had a rough week. After I don't remember if it was I think it was last weekend. I think I posted that Joel Rosario's back, and I think after that tweet, Joel Rosario is in fact not back.
He's had a rough year.
Yeah, he was just dummying people left and right last weekend, and then Sunday I think he forgot how to ride again. But hopefully,
what I think is going on with some of the American riders over here, not John Velasquez, some of the younger ones, and I think we saw it with Joel, is I don't think that they're quite understanding that when they back a horse out that's acting up out of the starting gates over here, that horse is not running. That horse is not getting loaded again.
Yeah, that's what happened with Golden Pal last year, isn't it?
Yes. And I think that's how American Rascal got out of the gates today. I did not look like Joel Rosario was ready in the slightest. And he kind of threw his head back when American Rascal came out, and I'm like, I don't know if they just don't know, or they're not expecting it, or if it's something else. But that's kind of what looked like it happened again to me, because there was a horse that was right beside American Rascal that was acting up, and they pulled the horse out, and not even 2 seconds later, they sent him.
Yeah, there was another. I think one of the other 2-year-old races. He got out really, really slow. It might have been on Tuesday. The race that the George Weaver horse won. I think that was another thing. He just got out really, really slow, and you just can't do that. You just can't do that over here.
I think that has a lot to do with it, because I think there was a horse in there also that didn't go.
Yeah.
Just about every 2-year-old race, I think probably every single 2-year-old race, there's been a horse that has had their head stuck or has had both front legs over the barriers, and they just pull them out. They don't even look at them. You're not going.
Yeah.
So you better be there ready to go and make sure your horse isn't leaned back on the gates, not anticipating going, because whoever comes out of the gates, they ain't going back in.
Yep. Anything else on that race? No?
Nope.
There's 17 horses. You guys aren't picking more of them. Okay. The 1.5 mile Hardwick here. Grade 2. This is the leg 4, obviously, of this cross country pick 5. And Caleb, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, so I kind of figured, as I'm going through this sequence, unless I get a third and fourth job, I'm going to have to find a single somewhere. And this was probably the best race I thought to take that stand. And it's nothing crazy. I am going to go with the favorite here, Hook'em. I think, this is just a horse that's really, really sharp right now, and has been sharp for a long time, honestly. I think he's like the third or fourth top rated horse in the world on time form. And that last race in the Brigadier Gerard Stake, I mean, he had no right to win that race. I mean, your last year's Derby winner, Desert Crown, got the jump on him. He had the check up off of heels. I mean, he wasn't even likely to finish in the money, but he finally got clear and just exploded. I mean, a incredibly impressive effort, especially off that lengthy layoff there. I thought if there was a time to perhaps beat him, it may have been there for sure, especially with the field he was facing there. I thought is arguably a little tougher than what he encounters in here. So, yeah, I'm not trying to beat the favorite in here. I think he is a deserving favorite. And while there are maybe some interesting alternatives, none of them were really compelling enough for me to take a shot against the favorite.
Stephen Fox saying, Caleb, that he's hiring a part-time employee. So if you do need another job to afford a couple more horses, he's
it's good to know. I have
willing to help you
options.
out. Caitlin.
I would also be inclined to single Hook'em for the reasons Caleb mentioned. Both he and Desert Crown were both coming in off of 11-month layoffs, and he got the jump on Desert Crown. He definitely did not have as good of a trip as Desert Crown did, I didn't think. This horse is just getting so good at the right time. It doesn't matter the type of ground, whether it's soft, good to firm. He's won on any type of ground. The distance, whether it's 1.75 miles, 1.25 miles, 1.5 miles, it doesn't matter. This is just a horse that keeps getting better and better and better with age. And we'll have to see what ends up happening with the rest of the year. And I may be fast forwarding a little bit too far because I'm pretty confident Equinox is not going to the Arc. This could very likely be your Arc winner, I would say, because he can run in soft ground that you would see at Longchamp that time of the year. Granted, this is going to be good to firm. He's perfectly fine over good to firm. Won over a good turf course. He's actually won his last 3 races over a good course. He's won at Ascot before. He's won several times there. So can't really poke many holes in him whatsoever. I think he's got a chance to be probably the best older turf course or horse over there at the moment. Mo Stadoff ran well the other day, but it seems like him, Luxembourg, and a couple other ones just trade blows all the time. But Hook'em has just been so consistent. I would say really the only other one that would interest me, and I would probably not put on a ticket, would be more, I don't know, depending on what other types of races you're going to play. It's another horse coming in off of an 11-month layoff, and it's Pile Driver. Pile Driver is really good at this distance. He won at Royal Ascot over a good to firm course in July of last year over Torquedo Tasso and Mishriff, who are pretty good horses. Torquedo Tasso, of course, an Arc winner. Mishriff, a Saudi Cup winner. So he likes his distance and he likes good to firm, but he's coming off of a long layoff, whereas Hook'em has had the tune-up, and I think Hook'em is maybe the better horse. He's beaten Pile Driver on the square before. It was actually in his last race prior to the last outing at Epsom. So Pile Driver would be the only other one that would interest me, but probably not today, especially if you're building that sequence ticket. I would say I would feel very comfortable singling Hook'em here.
Yeah, and I guess you kind of led into who I think my top pick in this race is. I'm gonna play Caleb in this race, and I'm actually
I think it's a 2-horse race.
I'm gonna fade Hook'em in this spot, and I'm gonna go with the horse that you were talking about, Hook'em being possible Arc winner. Well, what if I had told you there's a horse in here that's beaten Arc winner? So we'll go with Pile Driver here. Now I know it is off a very, very long layoff, But does have the, I believe, highest time form figure in this race, and it was going this exact trip on this course, and last time out here at Ascot. So, yeah, especially if this 5 Hookem takes all the money. Pile drivers listed at 7-1. What am I getting overseas, Caitlin?
8-1.
I'm getting 8-1. I mean, I'm loving that. So definitely, I'll take the alternative in here. I'll go with pile driver. Going a mile and a half here again on the good going. But well, yeah, actually, I think I was gonna say, I looked at the 8, but I don't know. There's just he's coming in off 4 straight wins, and it was just something. Just seeing what the results were today and seeing how just these horses that are coming in just in impeccable form. Not to say that Hookem isn't either, right? Hookem's got two straight G1 and a G3 win back to back. Yeah, I think that the 8 could be an alternative if you were looking at another horse to beat Hookem. But I just think the price on Pile Driver is going to be too good to pass up. So I had Pile Driver as a lone A in this spot, and maybe we get a little lucky here. And Charles mentioning Pile Driver's got the comment. He was talking about lead and then got headed. Pile Driver just decided to do the Brad Cox and rehead after getting headed. So, yeah. Anything else? I don't know. Did you guys look at Ascot for tomorrow or any of these other races? Anything that kind of popped out to you, or anyone you're looking forward to seeing?
I definitely look tomorrow. I've been playing every single day.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you've had to have looked. I mean, I'll look 2 minutes to post at a 24 horse race, and hope to get there. But,
You're like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Let me think for tomorrow. There's 2 horses in here that I have a hard time seeing losing on the card tomorrow. That's Little Big Bear in the Commonwealth Cup, second back, cutting back in distance. He tried the 2,000 guineas. It didn't work at all. And then he got back to the 6 furlongs under Frankie Dettori last time out and won really nicely. Brad Sell, he beat him very convincingly. Brad Sell, of course, came back to win the King's Stand. So I think Little Big Bear is going to be incredibly hard to knock off in the Commonwealth Cup and in the Coronation Stakes, maybe a little bit more spread out in there. But I think that Tahira is going to take all the beating. She only had 1 second, and it was after a really bad trip, and it was Tamaj in the Kipco 1,000 guineas and in the Irish 1,000 guineas. She was very impressive. She's done relatively nothing wrong at all in her career. So I think she's going to be really tough. And then there's a couple prices I think you can like and some of the other races, but those are 2 exciting horses that are going to be running tomorrow, I would say.
Cool. Well, let's finish this up here then. We got 1 leg to go. We're going to be finishing this up with the Wild Applause Stakes here. Mile on the turf at Belmont. Just a little bit less quality of horses than I think what we're going to see over at Ascot. But yeah, you got a couple Chad Brown horses because of course you do. Before we get into this race, I just always thought it's interesting. How many horses has Chad sent any horses over to Ascot at all, or?
I don't think so.
No, is it just something he just doesn't care about, or?
The purses are not that good. Yeah. I think it's more the prestige that comes with it. Just has to depend if it's for you or if it's not for you. Brad Cox didn't end up sending Caraval this year, which I was very disappointed about. Because I think she would have contended. Because, I mean, Highfield Princess got bumped around and Coolangatta was terrible. Those were the 2 big horses in there. So I think she could have really been a contender in there. And I think she would have really favored the straight course. But she was obviously really impressive in the Jaipur. But no, as far as I know, Chad Brown has never sent one over there. I don't really think it's necessarily his style. He also doesn't travel to Dubai either. He doesn't really send many horses up to Canada at Woodbine even. So I think he's pretty content staying here in the States.
Well, Canada's Mark Cassie's backyard. So
right.
You don't want to.
Well, Chad can't control, the race by entering half the field at Ascot. So
Yeah, not even
Maybe if he
close.
shipped like 20 horses over, maybe he'd be able to do it. I don't know.
He's probably got 20 horses that can run over there.
How many tastes does he have in his barn?
um, but yeah, I thought this was kind of an interesting race. I think it kind of starts and stops with the 8 Breath Away. Speaking of Joel Rosario, coming in here, off decent form. I mean, just missed last time out, going a mile at Pimlico. Had a win in a stakes race at Gulfstream Park, going 7.5. So I mean, horse really hasn't done anything wrong in 4 starts here, and so I kind of think that the 8 Breath Away is kind of the horse to beat in this spot, but I will say I think the way that a horse like Breathaway gets beat is that Naira BS that we see every once in a while. And we don't really have a true need the lead type in this race, but we do have a sprinter stretching out in the 7 carry, and you see JJ getting aboard for Joe Sharp. He's 2 for 2 the last 2 months riding for Joe Sharp. So you kind of tend to think that this horse is probably pretty live here. And when you get these sprinters stretching out, I mean, this horse isn't going to have to go nearly as fast, I think, to kind of grab the lead here. And, I've definitely seen JJ get aggressive on the turf occasionally when he's not riding for, Chad Brown. So I don't know. I think Carey could spring an upset here, kind of going wire to wire in the race that kind of lacks pace. And if that horse doesn't go, I think Soviet Excess kind of gets the lead. And this is a horse coming in here off of 2 straight wins, kind of seemed to figure it out on the synth, and then came back at Gulfstream and won another race going 7.5 furlongs. And this is definitely a horse that's going to want to be forwardly placed. And we've seen when there isn't much pace in front, has no problem going to the lead. You get Dylan Davis aboard, who, once again, can be aggressive at times. And so I think, I think the 8 is the best horse in this race, but I'm going to use the 6 and the 7 as well as B types, because you just don't know if one of these horses just gets out and gets an easy lead. I mean, I could definitely see either of these horses kind of going wire to wire. Caleb, how do you kind of see this?
So we're a little bit different in here. I'll start with maybe we're the same, and then I did think Carey was kind of interesting for the reasons you mentioned. This does sort of feel like one of those races for a relatively small field New York turf stakes race where all the jockeys grab and one horse gets out there and goes 25, 50, and the next thing nobody else can make up any ground. I think the 7 probably gets the lead over the 6, so I probably will defer to the 7 there just on the stretch out. Especially with the more aggressive rider in Castellano getting up here. So I thought the 7 was interesting. The 8 didn't really do anything for me, especially as the favorite. I mean, it hasn't done much wrong, but has really had perfect setups in each of her last 2 starts, getting a fast pace to run after, and just got the job done once, kind of didn't get it done once. Isn't really notably any faster than anybody else in here, and that's kind of with the perfect setups in each of the last 2. A horse that doesn't really seem to have any natural speed, and a jockey who's been kind of getting lost a little bit lately. I'm inclined to take a stand against Breath Away, I think, as the favorite. But unfortunately, I don't have anything super clever beyond that, as I think both Chad Brown horses in here make a lot of sense. Tax implications, dusted the other Chad Brown, Liguria, in the debut, then came back and ran second as a pretty heavy favorite. Disappeared for a while now, but this is a horse that is extremely lightly raced and still has a lot of upside, I think. You can tell she lugged in pretty badly in the stretch of that last start. Otherwise, probably would have been your winner. Liguria is the other, who I think was well beaten by tax implications, but then came on to put together 2 pretty impressive wins. Got a win at Aqueduct and then went out west to Del Mar to take a grade 3 pretty handily. Came back in the Edgewood and wasn't quite that good. I don't think this is one of Chad's better horses. I don't think either of them truly are. But I think the Edgewood came back a pretty strong race. I mean, Mission of Joy exited that race to just absolutely bury a field in the grade 3 regret. There's a couple nice horses in there. Heavenly Sunday, Papilio. I think Cairo Consort may have came out of that race. I mean, a lot of nice horses were in that Edgewood. I mean, that's probably one of the better 3-year-old turf stakes we've seen for fillies so far this year, if not the best. So I
You
thought
just
that
put
was a
like 20
strong race.
qualifiers on that race.
That was a strong race. So I think that was a nice effort. Splitting the field and losing by less than 2 lengths, to where I think any of the top 5 finishers in that race, including Liguria, are probably better than anything she's facing in here. So I think that I think Chad holds a strong hand with both of his runners, and I probably want a little exposure to carry in case anything goofy happens up front.
Yeah, Charles saying anything out the Edgewood, he bets back with success.
I'm sure Caitlin can talk probably more about the Edgewood and the regret.
Yeah, the Edgewood race was kind of weird. I know Mission of Joy came back to win, but Liguria, I mean, she was a relatively decent price in there, almost 10-1. She just kind of really didn't have any excuse. She just ran around there. She never really changed links. She was off. She never changed positions. So I would be willing to maybe take a stand against her in here. I do prefer the other Chad Brown a little bit more tax implications. She is coming in off a layoff, but Chad's Barn 31% coming off of an extended layoff. So I'm just fine with that. And as you guys already mentioned, she ran down Liguria pretty convincingly on debut and had a little bit of issues in her last out race at Belmont at Aqueduct. Hasn't been seen since October. So she would be the one that I would look to in this race. But there's a price in here that I really like. I'm not sure she can knock off a group like this, but she's not far off when it comes to speed figures and all of that good stuff. And that's going to be the 5 that is Cecile for Lindsay Schultz. Lindsay Schultz has blew me away so far as a trainer. She's really talented. She trained under Shug McGahee. And this is just a horse that clearly is better suited for the grass. She ran 2 races on the dirt. She came out of a race that had Dazzling Blue on debut, and then she came out of the Punch Bowl race. So those have been 2 really live dirt races. And then she tries the turf for the first time, going a mile at Churchill. She got absolutely left at the start. She had to steady, and she was 9 wide turning for home, and she blew the doors off this race. I think it was the most impressive main special weight win on the turf that I've seen this year at any track, because it was just so unexpected. And she ran absolutely huge, almost too good to believe. And second up off the layoff, she does pretty well with her barn. And she has a good combination with Julian Leperoux, who climbs back against this horse, obviously is wading into much deeper waters in stakes company. But she also beat 3-year-olds and up in that main special weight win. And she was just tons the best in there. And she had nothing go her way. So I would be inclined to use her at a big price.
Cecile is definitely. I think you made a really, really strong case. Might be one I'll have to toss back on. Caleb, sorry, I know I interrupted you and it was very rude. And I was going to jump right back in down your throat, but I figured I'd let you finish. But you mean to tell me that you're taking 2 Chad Brown horses that debuted at Monmouth?
I know.
and then he had to send this one out to Del Mar to win a grade 3. I mean, like, we talk about Monmouth and Tampa. Like, where's Del Mar on the fake Chad scale? I mean,
he sends some horses there. I mean, not for stakes races. It just feels like a soft field. I mean, Caitlin made a really strong argument for the 5. I may need to at least watch the replay because that was pretty convincing. But it's just there's nobody in here that really towers over the field. I mean, it's a listed stakes race. So if this was a grade 1, then yeah, I probably don't want to bet a Chad Brown horse that he thought was worth sending to Monmouth for the debut. But against this bunch, I mean, I don't think there's much in this field, which makes it kind of ripe for an outsider. So, I mean, that's why I don't hate the idea of looking at a horse like the 5 or the 7.
Yeah, I didn't look at the weather. There's an MTO entered. Are we supposed to get any weather on Saturday?
I don't know. That's the one thing we have Mark for. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll look.
I was just gonna say I think the MTO looks just absolutely dangerous as all
There's
heck.
a 60% chance of rain on Friday, but nothing on Saturday.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say, like, the 9, the MTO just looks like overwhelmingly the horse to beat if this does get washed off. I mean, the horse would probably be 2 to 5 if it gets washed off, anyways. But
It could be a 2-horse race. I don't know who
yeah,
stays in
yeah,
if this comes off.
yeah, because these are, I mean, these are turf horses. I mean, maybe the 7 stays in, right, with Practical Joke on top. But yeah. Charles asking if deep closers are having a tough time on turf at Belmont. And Mark is saying that they have been at Belmont. So Mark was in chat. Uh, and he also just messaged us in the group chat that the one thing, he has feelings. We're sorry, Mark. We love your bald head. But yeah, I'll be honest. Belmont has not been my track, like, at all. I have no idea. I think the other day I won, like a couple $100 at Ascot, and then for some reason I decided to play Belmont today, and it did not go well. Um, but yeah. Um, anything else? Anything else on this card? I think it's fun when they do this kind of stuff, right? When they include Ascot, they include some of these other tracks. I like the cross country wager, especially since it is still the 50 cent base, and because the Stronach 5 never came back. Like, Stronach actually did something nice, and the Stronach 5 just never came back. It's been like a year since we've seen
Hmm.
it.
I didn't even notice that, but you're right.
Yeah.
We got the golden hour at least.
Yeah. Well, you didn't notice it because, I mean, you weren't going to handicap Laurel anyways. So.
I mean, I'm a man of principle.
But yeah. So, Caitlin, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
We appreciate your insight on this international stuff, and I think when does Hong Kong still have one more big weekend coming up before they break?
I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to look.
I was going to say we did.
To say no.
Yeah, I remember we did like a space or something for it once, and it was really fun. So we'll have to do that again.
Yeah, I need to. Maybe let's think about doing an Ask It recap space, and maybe think about where these horses could go next. Definitely would be fun if you guys participated and watched the last couple of days, because I think that'd be cool to do kind of like a recap thing afterward. But I don't think Hong Kong is racing again, because I know that what's his name isn't racing again until like September or August.
Yeah, so it might not be until the fall then. But
Yeah,
we'll have to do something then. But where can people find you if they don't know?
You can always find me on Twitter at Caitlin E. Free, and I have other forms of social media, but Twitter's kind of the main place. I'm always on with CDI tracks. I do a lot of the international stuff for Twin Spires as well, especially when it's Derby related, or big international races that are Breeders' Cup winning your ends, things like that. But you can always find me at Churchill Downs, Turfway Park, or Colonial.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining us, and guys, thank you for watching. Obviously, on thewronglead.com at wrong_lead. Our Twitter handles are in our names there. Like, subscribe, hit all the buttons, comment, make fun of Mark, make sure he catches strays on the way out, and we will catch you guys later.